We are live. It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast to be exact. And I'm Hudson.
I'm Ryan.
And before we get into episode number 25 of season 3, y'all know the deal. I got to talk to you about a few quick things. First off, if you are new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you haven't yet, make sure to follow us on Instagram. The link to our Instagram is in the description below. You can find weekly clips, debate topics, hot takes, episode reminders on our Instagram. So make sure to follow us, especially if you aren't so much into long form content, but happening to be tuning into this week's episode. Make sure to follow us on Instagram. And then also some new news. We are now on Spotify. So if you happen to be listening to us on Spotify, well, first off, thank you for listening. And then second, make sure to like our channel and share our episodes. And if you want to find our Spotify, you can go to the description or our bio on Instagram. You can click the link on our link tree and it'll send you to our Spotify. Also, search us up at Revved.up 906 on Spotify. So thank you very much for tuning in. And if you want to listen to us while you're driving and make it a little bit more convenient, you can now listen to us on Spotify. We have a great episode for you guys today. Episode number 25 of season 3. And Ryan, I am particularly excited about this topic because it is all things current with the Pistons. There is a lot going on. It seems that the Pistons always have a very busy off season. It's never quite quiet. There's only a select quiet weeks for the Detroit Pistons. And so we're just going to be talking all things Pistons right now. A lot of news breaking. Cam Thomas possibly coming to the Pistons from the Brooklyn Nets. Rasheed Wallace inducted into the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame. Early NBA power rankings from Law Murray of The Athletic. We're going to talk about if the Pistons got snubbed or if we're happy where they're at. And then also Jalen Duren getting some national recognition also for his great play. But Ryan, first off, we are going to talk about Ausar Thompson, who made his Slam magazine cover debut with his brother Amen. And it's no surprise that they shared the spotlight together as they kind of are synonymous with each other, obviously twins. The story was titled A Tale of Two Cities. Ryan, I think we're always happy about Pistons players getting national recognition because it shines a light on the city of Detroit. But anything in particular stand out? Happy for Ausar and his brother?
Yeah, so when that came across my feed, first off, I was shocked. I was not expecting Ausar Thompson on the cover of Slam, let alone the two of them on this new issue. That's high praise. You don't just get that. You look at Cade Cunningham and guys of the past, you can understand why they've been on it. You can understand why Caitlin Clark was on it. You can understand why so and so on it. It's just, you can understand that. But Ausar and Eamon, it's like, whoa, I was not expecting that one. So that's why, to me, it's like, okay, the Slam magazine is trying to make a statement on something right now. They both had great second years in the league, and they're by far probably the best rising star on their own teams. Like the Rockets, obviously they made a lot of moves this offseason. Getting Kevin Durant and co. And I mean, realistically, he's the youngest player that's rising. Other than you can make the case for Sengun, but Sengun's already been established, I would say. So then, and you don't have Jalen Green anymore because you traded him away for Durant. So it's really Amen Thompson that's the next rising star there. And then you look at our roster and you think of who's here and who's not here. You can make a case that, okay, maybe Ausar isn't the next rising star because you have Jalen Duren, who is right there with him, who is still very young. You have, you could just go down a bulleted list of guys. You could go Jaden Ivey because Jaden Ivey really hasn't established himself quite yet due to injury. Or you have Cade, who had that one season that he missed because of injury. And if he can replicate what he's done last year and then even the last 2 years, wow, okay, you're onto something. So with the Pistons and him, this is a statement because
Hmm.
it's like, okay, the Slam magazine is trying to put out to the world, these guys are next, and you kind of have to jump on this bandwagon. And so I'm
Right.
happy for Ausar. I'm happy for the brothers there. I think it's really cool that they both even got their own edition of the magazine, um, which is really cool. But to me personally, I thought Ausar had a better season than Amen did. But I mean, the stats don't lie.
I love this move for a couple reasons for Slam because first off, NBA loves promoting the Thompson twins. We saw that during All-Star break last season, how, the Rising Stars games or little tournament there, the whole time they talked about the Thompson brothers. And then also, I love this move because it's a great confidence boost for Ausar. We know he can kind of have up and downs depending on his confidence. I mean, the fact he's on the cover of a magazine heading into his third season is just it's just great. And then it's also building a Pistons culture that is continuing to grow, not just because of last season's play, but also the offseason moves that some of these players are getting. So it's great to have a shining light on the Detroit Pistons organization. And why not do it through a absolute stellar of a guy like Ausar Thompson? So just happy for those Thompson brothers and especially Ausar, just because we know he's a nice guy and really deserves all the love he's getting. Ryan, let's take some time to talk about possibly the Pistons signing Cam Thomas. And talks of Cam Thomas with the Detroit Pistons are really kind of upping in the last 2 weeks, for sure the last week, because, quote from Sports Illustrated, negotiations between Brooklyn and Cam Thomas have, quote unquote, stalled. And then also, just as far as all the beat reporters and reporters on the NBA, they're saying that, hey, the Pistons have called about Cam Thomas. These talks are truly happening. And then also, as of today, July 28th, Cam Thomas unfollowed the Brooklyn Nets on Instagram. Now, that is sending multiple smoke signals. That's either saying, hey, no love lost, I'm moving on, or hey, you know, get some attention here from the Brooklyn Nets front office, seeing that he unfollowed them. That could just simply be his agent being like, hey, let's put the pressure on the Nets to get a couple extra million, go unfollow them on Instagram. It can mean a couple different things. But Ryan, when talking about adding a guy like Cam Thomas, do you see it happening with the Detroit Pistons? Do you think this is just another player that's getting thrown around with the organization? Or, where's your head at as far as adding a guy like Cam Thomas?
So to me, it's another one of those guys that's just getting thrown in right now. And that's strictly because you look back at earlier in the offseason, all the talk was the Pistons adding Devin Booker. And
Right.
obviously that did not happen for a reason unknown to us, other than the fact that he got paid. Um, and with that being said, like you had Devin Booker as an example. Then you had Kevin Durant, which, come on, people. I don't want Kevin Durant on this team. He's just going to take us down. No disrespect because he has had a heck of a career, but like he would really take this team down. You know what? He might compliment Cade. I don't know. But then you have Cam Thomas now, and even you had the little stint of the sign and trade, or the potential sign and trade. Yeah, it did happen, but it didn't happen the way we thought. The sign and trade with the Kings of sending Dennis Schroeder to the Kings, and we were thinking, oh,
Yeah.
Trajan Langdon's talking about Malik Monk. What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that never happened. We just ended up getting cash and a second round pick. So to me, this is strictly just like up in the air. This is not like anything to hang a hat on. It's kind of like, okay, this could be something, but most likely not. I don't necessarily see it happening. And that's strictly just because if Langdon didn't go for Malik Monk, who I think is not necessarily the better offensive player, but is probably a more well-rounded player. If he didn't go for that, for a guy that's used to coming off the bench and being in the second unit, and rather would go for Cam
Right.
Thomas, that I don't think, no offense to Cam Thomas, but would he be fine coming off the bench? I don't think he would, because he's been
Right.
in Brooklyn starting his entire career thus far. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, obviously, he didn't start his rookie year because that's when you still had the remnants of the James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant Nets. Um, but then you have here this past year, he averaged 24 points along with 4 assists and 4 rebounds, and that's pretty darn good for Cam Thomas.
Right.
So he's never been really the one to come off the bench. So for this move to be going like, okay, this might be something, is if he could actually come off the bench. If he could come off the bench, then I'm like, oh, I'm all ears, I'm listening. But I don't know if he can.
Right.
And that's not out of the player he is. That's out of the person he is. And he's from what I've seen, he's a good person. But usually when talks stall out with teams, it's usually because either the agent is getting in the way, or B, the player just thinks too highly of himself that he's like, this is where I'm at, and this is
Right.
what the Nets value him at. So it's to me, if the player wants to join the Pistons, heck yeah, I'm all for it. But if the player doesn't want to, I mean, the person doesn't want to rather like be the one to come off the bench in the second unit, then I don't know. But if we do sign him or do a sign and trade, does that mean one of our other players gets shipped off? And most likely that's a yes.
Right.
I don't think
Right.
the Nets are just going to take cash or future considerations. I think they're going to want a player. And that player, honestly, based off the positions they play and based off the stats, you would suggest it's probably going to be Jaden Ivey. But I wouldn't move Jaden Ivey for Cam Thomas. That's a terrible trade. And maybe let's say this does happen. I am sorry, Cam Thomas, but I would rather have Jaden Ivey.
I completely agree. In my opinion, if the Pistons signed a player like Cam Thomas, that means that they've given up on Jaden Ivey. And I don't think they're in that position. So, like you said, if Cam Thomas came to the Detroit Pistons, he would more than likely 90% chance would have to come off the bench. Is he okay with that? I don't think so. But for the right paycheck, maybe. And the reason I like the signing of a guy like Cam Thomas is I want somebody to fill the role of Beasley and that whole absence of a player we're going to be missing this upcoming season. I can't stress enough how big Beasley was for the Detroit Pistons last season, and I worry about who is going to fill that role. I'm not sure Karis LeVert can do that, but I think a guy like Cam Thomas could step in and fill that role. But like I said, I don't know if he's okay coming off the bench. So I think it's going to be interesting to see if talks further between Cam Thomas and the Detroit Pistons. As of right now, it's just kind of smoke signals and kind of taking hints here and there from certain reporters. But until we see from Shams Charania, the tweet come through and, he signed with the Pistons, it's all kind of just up in the air right now. And I think with adding a guy like Cam Thomas, it makes more question marks. It doesn't give answers to certain situations. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how things kind of continue. But make sure to comment below what your thoughts are. Should the Detroit Pistons sign Cam Thomas? Let us know in the comments. Ryan, let's continue talking about all current events with the Detroit Pistons by talking about early NBA power rankings from La Murray of The Athletic. And I kind of have mixed emotions with this early NBA power rankings, and we'll kind of talk about it in a second here. But I'm just going to go from the top overall team until the Detroit Pistons get selected. So as of right now, La Murray has Oklahoma City Thunder as the best team in the NBA. Then the New York Knicks at 2. At 3, the Cleveland Cavaliers. At 4, the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't have a lot of qualms yet. At 5, the Denver Nuggets. 6, the Houston Rockets. 7, the LA Clippers. 8, Orlando Magic. 9, Golden State Warriors. And at 10, the Detroit Pistons. And at 10, I think I like that, but also another reason I would like it is because at the end of last season, the Pistons were at 12 in the NBA power rankings. That means they've moved up 2 spots in the offseason. Ryan, what are some of your thoughts on these early NBA power rankings? Because, I mean, there's some mischievous things happening here.
So first off, the Knicks should not be number 2, and that's because I'm a Knicks hater.
That's kind of
Um,
wild.
but it's not just because I'm a Knicks hater. Like they got crapped on by the Pacers, and they're number 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Karl Anthony Towns couldn't play defense to save his life all playoff long, and they're
Yep.
number 2. And Jalen Brunson just completely disappeared in the finals, and they're number 2. I'm sorry, that just makes no sense to me. Especially ahead of the Cavaliers, that doesn't make sense, and even ahead of the Timberwolves. Actually, ahead of everyone below them, that doesn't make sense. Although you can make the case for the Clippers, I'll make a case there. They're fine being over the Clippers. I'm fine with that. But like everyone else, I'm like, oh, I don't know about that one. But no, that one, that's the first one where I'm like, ooh, I don't think this guy knows what he's talking about. Then Timberwolves at 4, I think is actually too high for them. I think they would be around the 5, 6, 7 range rather than 4. So they can slightly get bumped down. I don't think the Nuggets should actually be that high. And that is strictly just because they made the big trade of
Yep.
Michael Porter
They lost
Jr.
Michael Porter. Mm-hmm.
And then brought in Cam Johnson. And I love both players. I'm not sure. I think Michael Porter Jr. just strictly might be more of an everything player, where I think Cam Johnson is more of a specialized player. And I think that's what the Nuggets were trying to go for, is bring in a specialized player to follow along Jokic rather than an all-around player to really take in the minutes, to take in the points, rebounds, whatever from Jokic. And that's probably why it's ended up the way it is. I think the Magic at 8 is too high, strictly just because we have yet to see a completely healthy Orlando Magic team. They've been dealing with a lot of injuries the last year or so. And last year, as a key example, you have Franz Wagner go down with an injury. Mo Wagner went down with an injury. He's a key role player on that team. Paolo Banchero is dealing with injury. Like, we don't. And then also, they made the offseason move to trade away Cole Anthony, bring in Desmond Bane, which to them is actually a big move. It's a huge move. It shakes up the entire roster. But then it's like, what does Desmond Bane actually do to complement those guys that you already have there? Like, how does that work? So to me, 8 is high for them. I think they should be in the 10 to 11 range, kind of where the Pistons and Lakers are, just because, and this is not me saying, oh, the Pistons are better. This is me strictly saying they made a big move this offseason. We got to see how that works before we can actually rank them that high. But yeah, so then we get down to the Pistons at 10. I am perfectly fine with that, because I was expecting much worse, to be honest. And that's just because you look at our offseason, right? Yes, we made a splash, and we bring in Duncan Robinson, we bring in Karis LeVert, and then we draft Chaz Neer. And it's like, okay, you're actually doing something there. Where are they going with this? We don't know yet. Obviously, we lose Dennis Schroeder. We lose Tim Hardaway Jr., most likely going to lose Malik Beasley. So it's like a lot of questions up in the air as far as additions to players lost. Obviously lost somebody from Fontecchio, and I love him because he actually did decent for us, but I'm fine losing him. So to me, just the roster shape up and the expectations from last year compared to this year, I'm perfectly fine sitting at 10. I'd rather sit at 10 than 15, or 10 than 20, which is normally what we would be at. So I'll take a top 10 spot. And plus, we're ahead of the Lakers. I don't know how, to be honest. And that's just because people love the Lakers. But I'll take that. And ahead of the Bucks too. Ahead of the Hawks. The Hawks, I think, should actually be higher. To be honest, I think they should be probably around where the Warriors are. if not the Warriors, and where the Magic is at 8 and 9. They had a great offseason so far. And then even last year, no, I didn't think them taking Zachary Ricochet was going to be like a great pick. I thought he was going to be more of a developmental guy. He is not a developmental guy. He is ready to go. And then you have, what's his face? I can't even remember their names. But you have Dyson Daniels. Whew, he is good. So yeah, I think they should be ranked a little bit higher. But as far as the Pistons goes, I'm perfectly content with that spot. I am surprised per se that we didn't get bumped up a little bit because you have the Magic right there. You have the Clippers right. I would make the case that we are better than the Clippers in a landslide, to be honest. No matter the star power that is there. Because yes, you have Chris Paul that you added in and CP3 going home to LA. That is cool. That is really cool. That's a great headline. But he's also 40 years old. And then you have Kawhi Leonard, who can't stay on the court to save his life because he's injured. And then you have James Harden, who's the same way. He gets injured all the time. But then when all the other guys go down, he kind of goes all out. And you're like, ooh, James Harden's back. He's not back. Yeah. He's just on a bad team. So to me, when you look at that roster shape up, it's all old heads. And you look at this Pistons team, and to be honest, I'd rather, and I think everybody in the NBA, as far as fans go, would agree that they would rather have Cade Cunningham than anybody on that Clippers team, because Cade is that good. Plus, he's younger and stays healthy. But then I just go down our starting five compared to their starting five. The only one that I'd really take right now, and this is no offense to Jaden Ivey, but I would probably take James Harden over him, and that's strictly just because of what he's done for his career versus what Ivey has done so far. But other than that, like I'm taking everybody on the Pistons roster over the Clippers in a starting five matchup, and that's even taking Ausar Thompson over Kawhi Leonard. So just saying there. But no, I'm fine with 10. I think they could get bumped up higher. I think I wouldn't have been surprised if they were lower, to be honest, just because of the roster shape up and then just overall people hating on the Pistons as always. But I am perfectly fine with 10.
Well, and I think ever since we've been covering the Detroit Pistons the last 3 seasons, these early power rankings always come out, the player rankings always come out, and the Pistons always just get absolutely dogged in every article. So I think for us, I'm content with the Pistons at 10 overall in the NBA power rankings. I will say the Pistons are better than the Geezer squad, the LA Clippers. The Pistons are better than the always injured Orlando Magic. And then I think the Pistons in a 7-game series beat out the Golden State Wizards 9 out of 10 times. So I'm happy with 10. Don't get me wrong, but I could see them going anywhere from 10 to 7 in the NBA power rankings. And I think by the end of the season, the 25-26 season, they will be, up from 10. I think they'll be moved up in those power rankings because they'll prove that the moves they've made this offseason are going to pay dividends for the Detroit Pistons. So there's kind of our hot takes, our ideas for the NBA power rankings. Make sure to comment below your thoughts on where the Pistons ended up in the NBA power rankings. Next up, Rasheed Wallace has been inducted into the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame for the 2025 class. Ryan, being 2 guys from Michigan and knowing the whole sports world in Michigan, I'm happy for Rasheed Wallace overall. I'm going to read through a brief article talking about him being inducted to the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame, and then we'll kind of get your first thoughts. The Pistons acquired Wallace midway through the 2003-04 season from the Atlanta Hawks in a 3-way trade, including the Boston Celtics. He played an integral role in helping the team win the NBA championship that season and returned to the finals the next year when they lost to San Antonio. Wallace, 50, was a 2-time All-Star with the Pistons, who played in 399 regular season games for the team, averaging 13.4 points and 7.2 rebounds. He appeared in 103 playoff games, averaging nearly the same in the playoffs. He retired in 2013 following a brief stint with the New York Knicks. The class was selected by the Hall of Fame's Election Task Force, a statewide election committee, and the public. The new members are scheduled to be honored during the 2025 induction event, December 19th, at the Soundboard Theater at Motor City Casino in Detroit. Shout out Motor City Casino. They're just a class stack. Me and Ryan always stay there when we take our visits to Detroit. Ryan, obviously, people and Pistons fans have mixed emotions on Rasheed Wallace just because he's kind of an ego guy. But overall, I'm happy that he's inducted in the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame. What are some of your thoughts?
I am ecstatic. He's one of those guys that, to me, as a Pistons fan, and growing up until now, he's one of those staples in the Pistons' success. He's not just one of those role players that you hear about. He's one of the staples. And so, like, even the last couple of years, and I've stated this to you numerous times, but the last couple of years, we've sat here and gone like, okay, why hasn't he gotten the recognition yet? Like, he is that good. He put on an absolute clinic whenever he was in a Pistons uniform. Even though he also did get ejected a lot.
Yeah.
He was a great player for this organization. And so I'm happy he's finally getting recognized for that. But now that he's getting recognized, at least for the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame, come on, Pistons, retire his jersey. Like, that's what's next. Yep.
Absolutely.
I think that should have been first, honestly, because I think it's long overdue. I don't think he actually gets as much love from the Pistons organization per se as he once did. And it's strictly the front office. I don't think it's necessarily, I think as a fan base as a whole, I think we would all agree, like, we always will love Rasheed. I think it's more so the Pistons organization that's kind of like not showing the love that he once was shown. And so I think that's why to him, it's kind of like, ooh, I don't know if I would really want to go back to Detroit. Because you even go back to when the Pistons hired Monty Williams over Chauncey Billups at that time. And Rasheed was going like, what the heck? Well, like, why are you going Monty Williams over Chauncey? Yep. Like, Chauncey is the clear-cut coach that you want for this organization. Why are you going Monty Williams? And he was upset with that, which means if he's upset with that, he really does love the Pistons. But he also really loves Chauncey, and that's evident, of course. But no, I think the next step is retiring his jersey. I think that's been the next step for the last 5-6 years in my eyes, at least.
Yeah.
Because he is that good. He means that much to this organization and the fans. So props to him on the Hall of Fame induction for the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame. But next step has to be jersey retirement. Come on, Pistons. Everybody, let's give all the love to Rasheed, but let's call out the Pistons and go like, hey, let's get this going. Let's retire his number.
Well, and one thing to note, Ryan, we were in Detroit for the 20-year anniversary of the Going to Work Pistons at Little Caesars Arena, and Rasheed Wallace was not present. So I know because of little things like that, Pistons fans can have differing emotions about him. But overall, I mean, you can't deny the work he did with the Going to Work Pistons. And I know we personally are big fans of Rasheed Wallace. So congrats to him on being inducted to the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame. In the last 5 minutes before we wrap up today's episode, I want to just talk about Jalen Duren for a second, because he is recognized as a great underage 25 player in today's NBA. There was an article that came out from Sports Illustrated highlighting 2 young NBA players, and it talked about only 2 players under the age of 25 recorded 40-plus double-doubles. Those 2 players were Alperen Sengun, who we mentioned before, and the great and powerful Jalen Duren. I just wanted to take some time to highlight him because I felt like he had a severely underrated season for the Pistons this year. You know, we talked about Malik Beasley and him breaking records, and Cade Cunningham being a first-time All-Star, but Jalen Duren deserves to get a lot of love. Ryan, any thoughts on that?
Jalen Duren is an absolute monster. The fact he's been in the offseason working on his jump shot. Holy wow. Okay.
Yeah, those videos are wild.
That to me makes him even scarier. As opposing teams, not us, because we love him. But opposing teams coming in, having to defend not just him in the paint, but him outside of the paint, around the arc. Like, I don't know about that one. I would actually love to see him shoot a three because I think he actually would make it. Everybody thinks, he probably doesn't have a jump shot. Like, he does now. But I thought even before him working on it, I think he probably could have nailed a three or two, to be honest. But no, I think this is massive for him getting recognized like that because Sengun is good. He is really good. He is by far one of my favorite big men in the NBA currently, but just so happens to be on one of the teams that I have to hate right now. So that's unfortunate. But no, Duren getting the love, I appreciate it because he honestly doesn't get talked about enough. Really? You had Paul George in the past go like, yeah, this is a grown man. We got to show him the love. Like, he is actually good. He's going to be really good. And then after that, it's like he didn't have this, like this past year wasn't bad for him. Like, he had a great season. But Cade just had that great of a season. And then combined with the Pistons are actually winning. And then you combine that with, okay, look at Malik Beasley doing the shimmy. Look at Tim Hardaway Jr. actually doing good. So then he kind of just got pushed to the side as far as the noise is concerned. And I don't think people actually recognize, he had a great season when he actually did. If you look at the numbers, it's there. He had a great season. So I am happy that he's getting love right now. And honestly, we should show him even more love because he actually deserves it because he is by far, in my eyes, I would take him over Sengun right now. And that's strictly just based off of potential. If you go off of overall player, of course I'm going to take Sengun right now because he's more polished. But if you go overall potential, Jalen Duren by far has to be the talk of the town for the best big man coming up right now because he's slowly but surely establishing himself in the NBA, but he's still incredibly young and he's going to be here a long time based off of his health because he can stay healthy. That's not an issue for him. So he should be getting this love. And honestly, like Rashid, he should be getting even more love.
That will do it for episode number 25 of season 3. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.